Hello, you guys. It's Crystal Lopez here from crystalandcomp.com, and today I'm going to show you how to use your bread machine. Specifically, I have a Cuisinart convection bread maker, and we're going to make cinnamon rolls. Yes, seriously, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to share this with you. Look at how ooey gooey delicious. Oh my goodness. So I'm kind of notorious for deciding at 10 o'clock at night that it's a good idea to start something like making cinnamon rolls in the bread machine. And, I find a recipe and I'm like, oh, this looks like it'll go pretty fast. And I'm not considering the fact that there's rise time and bake time and all of that good stuff. So, this was a valuable lesson. I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning almost waiting for this to cook. And then I let it finish cooking and then didn't ice them until this morning whenever I got up and actually popped them back in the oven and then iced them. But let me show you just how easy this is to make. I really don't know. I think like once I get so far into something, I realize, oh, wait, I probably should have done this either earlier in the day or I should have waited and done it in the morning. But here we are. So this is a great recipe where you're just going to dump everything in. All right, so we're going to start with the milk. You're going to do 3/4 of a cup of milk. Now, you could do water. If you do water, you have to add 1.5 tablespoons of powdered milk to it. Okay, so pick one or the other. Either do your water, 3/4 of a cup of water with 1.5 teaspoons of powdered milk, or just 3/4 of a cup of regular milk. Okay. All right. We're going to add everything in this order. The next thing you're going to add is an egg. Then you're supposed to add your vanilla. And I forgot to add the vanilla, but I save it at the end and it's fine. And I just put it in one of the corners and it all turned out fine. So 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla and then 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt. Then 4 tablespoons of regular granulated sugar. So that goes in next. And one of the things that I've also learned is that you don't want for your salt and your yeast to touch. So that's one of the things that my friend Lana told me, which she's been making bread for years. And that kind of makes sense now because a lot of these dump and go where you dump it all into the bread machine or the bread pan and then put it in the bread machine. The salt is added early on and then the yeast is not added till the end and it's added on top of all the flour and it's not touching any of the liquid, but it's also not touching the salt. So I think that that's really interesting. So 4 tablespoons of sugar. Then you're going to add your flour, and this calls for all-purpose flour. So it's 2 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, and you're just going to add that right on top of this milk mixture that's down in the pan. And then you're going to add 3 tablespoons of butter and then 1.5 teaspoons of instant yeast. And remember, we're learning that instant yeast and active yeast or dry yeast, there's differences, right? And we want to make sure that we're paying attention to that. So after I add all of this, I realize, oh no, I forgot to add the vanilla. So I just measured it out and put it in one of the little corners and it all turned out fine. I will tell you, this dough made the softest, I don't know how to describe it. It was so soft and so pillowy and just such a smooth, incredible dough. It was almost like, cloud dough kind of. If I don't know, I was amazed at how soft this was. All right, so just get everything added in. Make sure you're following your measurements precisely, and then we're gonna make like a little area to put our yeast into. So one of my teenagers was on the other side of the light and the camera, and he was handing me the butter. I'm sure that looks kind of crazy with his hands coming in. I'm always asking them, whoever's on the other side, I'm like, is everything centered? Can you see everything okay? Is the camera still going? Is it still recording? Like, they just help me pay attention to make sure that nothing goes awry. And I think it's funny when I'm editing this stuff and I see their hands pop up in here. Anyway, so as you can see, like, you're gonna see dogs coming in and out of the kitchen. We have 4 dogs. And they are, if I am in the kitchen cooking, they are in here because they think they are going to get something to eat. They think that I'm going to drop something and it's going to be for them. Okay, so this is the moment where I realize I forgot to put the vanilla in, and I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, if I don't put this in the right place, I'm going to mess this up. This potentially could mess up the entire recipe. What do I do? So I just kind of stuck it over there in that little corner, and everything turned out just fine. No worries at all. And I'm just thinking, please don't let that mess this up. Please, please, please. All right, and then we're going to add the yeast right on top. Okay, so once we get the yeast added, then we're going to put this into the actual bread machine. And like I said, I have the Cuisinart Convection Bread Maker CBK 200, I think is what it is. My lid is broken. um, it's not a big deal. The lid, you can actually I've taken the lid off. I haven't run it the entire time with the lid off, but it's really not a big deal. The lid, I really don't know how much it needs to be on it except for whenever it's rising or whenever it's heating up. But all of that to say, I I do leave the lid on it for the most part. So we're just going to put the bread pan right down in there, and mine just, you just push it down in and it locks into place. And then I just kind of loosely put my lid on top. And then we're going to put it on the dough setting. So for my machine, it's setting number 10, and this is 1 hour and 40 minutes long. And so by this point, it's like 11 o'clock at night. I literally was up until 2 o'clock in the morning. All right. So it is going to start going through its process, and it's going to start mixing it, and then it will start kneading it, and then it will go through a rising process. So let's take a look at what that looks like. All right, so it is mixing, and the little paddle attachment is down there. It's attached, and it is just moving. Look, it's totally effortless. It is just moving that dough all around. And don't be worried. And you're going to see that there's some flour stuck on the sides, maybe even some butter stuck on the sides. It's totally fine. The process, trust the process. It's going to get it all well combined. All right, so here it is once it is done with all of the mixing and kneading. I want to say that took like 40 minutes. At this point, I've changed into pajama pants. I am ready for bed. All right. I did not let it rise in the pizza or in the bread machine because we're going to let it rise once we cut them into um, little cinnamon rolls. Okay. So you can either do this right on your countertop, or you could use some parchment paper or butcher block or whatever, wax paper. I'm using parchment paper. And we are just getting the ball of dough out of there. And I put down a little bit of flour just to kind of give it something to stick to. And then you want to take a rolling pin, put a little bit of flour on it as well, which honestly, this dough was not sticky at all. And we just want to roll it out and roll it out until it's a large piece that we are going to coat in sugar and cinnamon. All right, so once you've got it rolled out to a large piece of flat dough, we're going to take 3 tablespoons of room temperature butter, and we're going to spread it over this dough. We want it to be room temperature. We do not want it to be melted. So just remember, melting butter just does change the properties of the butter. Um, but also we don't want to put warm at this point. We're not trying to make this dough warm any faster, right? We're not ready for it to start rising yet. Then in a bowl, you're going to put 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar, 1/3 of a cup of granulated sugar, and then about that much cinnamon. How cinnamony do you want it? I think I did about a tablespoon, maybe 2 tablespoons. And we're going to evenly distribute all of that sugar, cinnamon all over the butter. Okay. Just get it nice and coated. You can use the back of a spoon to kind of spread it out. We want to make sure that we've got lots of cinnamon sugar everywhere. And then we're going to gently roll it just like this. And if you feel like it gets a little loose when you're rolling it, then just kind of unroll it a little bit and finish it up. Um, and then I tucked the ends in, And then we're going to slice this stuff up. And I did spray my casserole dish because I don't want this to stick. So we're just going to slice these into, I don't know, what is that, an inch and a half wide, maybe 2 inches. And we're going to put them into our prepared pan. I ended up getting 10 out of this, so just kind of work that other one in there somewhere. And now we want to let it rise. So initially, I put it inside the oven, which was not heated up, but I just put it inside the oven to give it a place away from, I mean, my air conditioner's on in my house and it's pretty chilly in the house. So I wanted to get it into the oven and away from the air conditioning, but I didn't have it on, so it wasn't heated. I set it in there for probably 20 minutes or so, and it wasn't rising at all. So then my mother said, well, why don't you turn the oven on, but put them on top of the oven so that the heat from in the oven comes up through the top of the stove, and that's when it finally started to rise. So once you give them an hour to rise, and then you bake them. And I baked them at about 350 degrees until they were totally done. And then this morning, I made my mixture to go on top. So that mixture is 1 tablespoon of butter that's soft at room temperature, 2 ounces of cream cheese that's at room temperature, 1 to 3 tablespoons of milk, a cup of powdered sugar, and then a splash of vanilla. It's really important that that powdered sugar is at room temperature, or else it's going to be a little clumpy, which you'll see the little clumps in here. But I mean, it is what it is. So so I heated them back up in the oven just for like 10 minutes or so, and then poured the icing mixture on top, and it was good to go. It was absolutely delicious. All right, you guys, thanks so much for watching, and I will leave the full recipe down below so that you have it, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, let me know what the awesome things are that you're making in your bread maker. All right, we'll see you later. Bye.